Okay. Now we've touched on 11. Let's get to the part where I think that you have the most problem with. Stranger Things in Philadelphia when 11 trucks off to meet her Indian lab sister in Philadelphia and meets up.
I think it's Chicago, actually.
It's Chicago. Okay.
Yeah.
So they truck off to Chicago, and she basically meets all of the bad guys from the Fatal Fury or Final Fight video game series. And then they go on a bank robbing, assassination adventure.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I have so many issues with that. First of all, her sister is like the worst actress in the world. Could not commit to an accent. I was like, so she's British. No, she's American. No, she's British. Nope, American. Like in her, like in this girl's moments of intensity, her like British accent would come out, right? Like for the emphasis, she'd like drop a British accent just to sound cool. But then she'd like be talking, and then like, where'd her accent go? I don't know. Stranger Things did not notice this when they were watching it. We're like, oh yeah, her accent kind of disappeared. It's like Vera Farmiga's Boston accent in The Departed.
Right.
Just fucking disappears. And then the team, like the band of misfits, like you said, are just like all the guys you punch out on the street of Final Fight, like with the crazy mohawk, cut off sleeves, like hoodie, I can imagine them like wielding a pipe and just bashing people.
Right.
But really that team, like those characters are literally something out of like a Chinese movie, right? Like a group of people that like Jet Li would show up in the US and get punked on by. They're like, okay,
Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx.
But yeah, basically, exactly like that. It's like, okay, how do we picture like bad American people? Okay, the dude with like the mohawk, of course, and then the girl with the dyed hair and nose ring, and then you gotta throw in a black dude because he's big and black, and then like and then you have the
Final Fantasy character.
Yeah,
it's Barrett.
Yeah, it's Barrett.
It's Barrett from Final Fantasy VII.
He's Barrett. Yeah, like it was just like such a random like the characters were not compelling. It like there was no reason why 11 should have wanted to be there, and maybe that was the point, that like she was just so desperate to like connect with people that she ended up with these like big douchebag gang robbers, who led by her sister with these other kinds of powers, but like it was all just so silly, and like the fact that it was the episode in between where like the Demogorgons or the Demodogs are crawling out of that hole, right?
Yeah.
And there's about to be the showdown in the lab, and then you have to watch this fucking hour of like her running around with these people for like, I was like, dude, it's like a fucking waste of an episode, really.
So
and like in the end, it develops nothing. It's just like, okay, like 11 found her sister, realized she didn't get along with her. I guess she has to go back to Hawkins to be with the people that genuinely like her and don't make her rob banks and don't make her kill people. It's like, okay, like
don't you ever take that away from me.
Well done on the accents.
Okay, you know what? I looked at this episode too, and I was just like, this is such garbage. It's like, and I was reading up online. So I think Stranger Things this season it was 9 episodes. It was 9 episodes, and last season it was 8 episodes. So they got this bonus. Episode, and we're just like, let's see what we can throw at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, I wonder if he was like a guest director. That's like, okay, you wanted to, you want your own Stranger Things spin-off? You get to direct this one episode. Go. And then they fired him halfway through.
And then they called Josh Whedon in.
Yeah, they got Josh Whedon
to try and salvage the movie.
To add in humor.
Well, see, I think that my biggest issue with this is that it was so out of character. You know, like I think they tried to take the '80s like RoboCop movie essentially. Yeah. They took the bad guys from RoboCop and they were like, "This'll work," you know. And you know, to be honest, I really hope that they do not make a I really hope they don't make a spin-off of this because I think it takes away. I don't think this is one of those things where you expand the universe and it's all kind of fun. Like, you know, the WB DC series, it's kind of stupid, but it's fun to see like all the characters come together. You know, you get Supergirl, you get Grant Gustin as Flash, you get Arrow, you get all these people. You got an ensemble cast. This is not the team I want to see in an ensemble.
No, absolutely not. I do not want to see a version of the Legends of Tomorrow DC crossover with
Stranger
her
Things.
Fucking sister who can't
like,
speak with an accent.
I guarantee you, Stranger Things 3 is going to be the upside down Avengers. I mean, like, if this did well, and I don't think it did, because I think the consensus across the board is that episode was just trash. But I think they're gonna get like. They're going to introduce like 3 more sisters, you know, and it's going to be the 4 sisters team. And they're all going to get like an icon, like the guy with the mohawk is going to get a lead pipe and then he's going to meet up with Steve's character.
Steve Harrington.
Yeah. Wielding his baseball bat. I guarantee you they're going to both kill a demi-dog at some point and then clink their weapons together like they're playing doubles and like on a tennis court.
Hey, maybe you should be writing.
I'm just saying. Like, I know that they're trying to set up the moment here, and I can see the moment in my mind. And you know, I'm gonna be honest. I would watch that one moment. I would go back and watch the YouTube highlights for just that one moment. But I don't think I can stomach. An entire episode on it. If they made it into like a TV movie, hour-and-a-half TV movie, like we used to see when you know. When Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles became a movie, or like when Power Rangers did a movie, it was like, this is so awful, but it's so good because it's hitting all the spots. And like they put in like another $1 million into the production and stuff like that, so everybody looks cooler. Like, you know, Steve gets an Adidas branded jacket,
like a track jacket
from that era. Like I would love to watch, and they're drinking like Pepsi Crystal or something like that. Like all the stuff from that era. I think I think just for nostalgic sake, and I think if they had a really good sense of humor that they could pull it off. But otherwise, this episode was just like, and I completely agree with you that the Indian girl here that she was a diversity hire, and that's sad. That's really shitty. I think because you know, she might have had a place somewhere else, but it's really hard to like. It's really hard to just, you know, put somebody in who is supposed to be a compelling character in your series and just have it fall flat on its face like that. I think she was so weak. I think her acting was terrible. I think she was inconsistent. I think also she was given terrible lines too. She was given like Magneto lines from you know, like join me 11. Like I was come on now, you know, like let's not make this into the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And I think the biggest kicker for me was that it's like she obviously is the most powerful person in the group. Like nobody even comes close to her. Nobody touches her. So why is she hanging out with this team? Is it really just because they're the outcasts or whatever? It doesn't make any sense to me. You know, like it like besides the vengeance motivation, I don't think you need a team of 5 people when you can fucking make people see butterflies or snakes or whatever, you know? Like you don't need that. You can go in and kill these people yourself. So, you know, a misstep in an otherwise good season. But
I think the only reason why they might have made this group so terrible is that they had to create a really dumbed down version of a team. So that 11 could like understand, like could get like what a team concept was, or understand like all of the outcasts had to be like an extreme of something, right? Like, and they had to spell it out, right? Like her sister literally had to go around and be like, oh yeah, that's this guy, you know, he's the brains, or she's the brains of the operation. She doesn't miss anything. You know, this guy's our muscle. Like I couldn't tell that, like from the fact that he's a 6'3" black guy. Like what else would he have been? Dude, we could really make like a whole episode talking about how much we hate this one Stranger Things episode.
But okay, otherwise forgiven because let's get into the rest of the topics here. I wanted to talk just a little bit about the relationship between D'Artagnan and Dustin because I think that's the weird like old yeller where the red fern grows sort of story going.
Well, it's just a cheap trick for the kids to escape at the end. It really, I mean, that the only purpose, and you know, this is another one of those things where they developed it way too much. Like, you know, Dustin, you know, like feeding Dart nougat, and then all the, you know, him escaping.
Didn't you totally get touches of like White Fang from this and stuff, like those old like Jack London stories?
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, like. Because the animal didn't do anything for him, right? You know, it's one thing for like the animal to like, you know, to be like, you know, your sled dog or your hunting dog,
sure, absolutely.
You know, where the red fern goes. But Dart didn't do anything. He just like he was just there and he fed him, and then like eventually he grew to way too fucking big, ate his cat, ran away, and at the end, Dart didn't eat him. Yeah, and let the kids go.
I'm just saying. Wasn't there like a moment when you were watching that series where you're just like, they're gonna train him, and he's gonna fight the Demogorgon?
Yeah. I thought there would be that actually. Yeah. I thought that would have been a good twist. But really, in the end, for the purpose that, you know, Dart served, and the purpose that, you know, like, because they didn't like. Dart growing to his size didn't contribute to the team understanding anything else, right? Like there wasn't like a farm of a bunch of little darts, and then like, you know, Dustin's Dart grew, and they were like, oh shit, like we got to notify the farm about, you know, what happens to these little slugs. Like it really just contributed no purpose, and this kind of goes into, you know, kind of the overarching theme of, you know, there were just so many little storylines that they really didn't need, because they, you know, like in the end they served no purpose, I think. Honestly, the Dart Dustin storyline ended up being like a waste of however much screen time it got.
Okay, well let's go into two more subplots then that I think were absolutely necessary, even though they contributed to the overall volume of the series. But let's talk about Maxine. Let's talk about Mad Max for a second.
Worthless.
Well, you think so? You really do?
Pointless. Absolutely pointless. I mean, like, she was just another girl for the guys to fight over. But I mean.
But nobody was fighting over 11. Nobody was fighting over 11. They were just like, yeah, you know, look at Mike and 11. It's like a junior high dance when you see one of your boys finally slow dance with a girl, and then you guys are standing on the wall, like nodding your heads, like, you get it, man.
yeah. I guess, this kind of threw in a little bit of conflict among the boys, but not that much conflict. That, you know, it wasn't like a consistently visited theme. It was more just like a humor element. It didn't divide the group, really. I mean, there was maybe one confrontation between Dustin and Lucas, but
I mean, with that conflict, though, I mean, don't you think like Dustin and Lucas, they're going to be like, I think they're going to have the strongest relationship in the entire group. I think it's a good setup, and I think it's a good way to like, it's how these boys become like understand that it's like people are human and they make mistakes, but the brotherhood ultimately is going to survive, right? Because both of them like Max. But both of them do shoddy things to kind of like get at her. And I mean, and I think the Max character in herself is kind of like a badass, you know, like I think that's, you know, she has that kind of broken household sort of thing. You know that her Heath Ledger lookalike stepbrother is going to show up in like a 10 Things I Hate About You moment in the next season. It's going to be him and fucking like John Ralphio and fucking.
Oh my God.
And the 40-year-old that's trying to be a teenager, and Jonathan Byers, like they're gonna have some sort of like love triangle situation with Nancy again.
Oh God, good God.
I mean, I just think that the introduction of Max, it's a good influx of kind of another feminine element in this series. Like you have a lot of boys in here. You do. You have a lot of kids in here, and it's great, because I think that this for me is like when you see a group of guys get together, I don't know that like there is, well, I mean, and I never experienced it, but I don't know that there's a female equivalent necessarily that we've seen in mass media or any sort of programming at all. But seeing girls get into it, I remember, when I was a kid, when we went on the adventures, when we biked around the neighborhood and did whatever, that there were girls with us too. But like the focus.
I don't remember that.
Well, I mean, you never had friends that were girls and boys, so it didn't matter. But I mean, I think this is a good. I think this is a good introduction of another feminine series, another voice, and somebody who's like inherently different than. No, it's fine. But I mean, I think that it's good that they have like a little bit of diversity there, because even amongst the guys, I think the presence of the girls brings out the distinction in the boys. I think that like Lucas, it was kind of a cheap shot at the beginning when they were talking about the Ghostbusters and how, because Lucas is the only black kid, that he should have been Ernie in the Ghostbusters. Yeah. And that was the only thing that really stood out to me. Because, all things aside, Dustin's kind of the standout character. Loser. Yeah, because he's the cute one, he's cute, he's quirky, he sets up the radio, he talks a lot, he's the most charismatic. But honestly, Mike and Will and Lucas all kind of fall into the same pot for me. They're kind of blue. You don't know what's going on. And I think that the presence of girls, like, and the relationships with girls, honestly, like it develops the girls' personalities quite a bit, because Max is looking for a group. Max is that lone wolf too, and she's looking for a group, and so is 11. But they're looking for a group in such different ways, and they're bringing out what the distinction is in the boys, and I think that's part of growing up too. That even though you're associating with like-minded people, that eventually you're going to find out that you have differences as well. So that's why I think the Mad Max storyline is not trash. I think it's great. I think it's going to be a great setup for season 3. I think it's going to set up a good number of subplots in season 3 as well.
Well, yeah, I can see why they would bring her in, especially since season 1 had 11, and now season 2 doesn't really have 11 as part of the group. And you're right. It is kind of a way for these boys to help these boys grow and to distinguish themselves. My biggest problem was actually her brother. The fact that, her brother, I mean, like, and he kind of falls into the whole, like, Chicago team of misfits. Like, he's
Wait
just
a second.
like, he's like the epitome of like a roided out, raging, man,
You take that back, man. That car is bitchin'. That car is straight bitchin', and the way that he hits on Will's mom.
Oh yeah, that part's great.
Or Mike's mom. I was like, oh, god damn, that guy's smooth. How old is that guy? Has he been to prison? Did he go to juvie?
Yeah. I mean, he had to be like a 21-year-old high school kid, but punking on him in the basketball game. It's like, man, that's what I want to do. But like you just said, after that scene when he's like driving with Max and then like he's about to hit the kids and he's like speeding up and he just yells like, You want me to hit him? You want me to hit him?
I'll do it.
But he just embodies that like he was like too like it was just a way too exaggerated villain that it's like, okay, come on, like I know we're not supposed to like him, but this is just like too over the top. Like we get it, you're not supposed to like him.
He's this year's Steve though, because Steve Harrington had such a great redemption arc.
No, I mean he doesn't redeem himself though, and actually I think the old.
Oh my God, get out of here! Steve totally redeems himself.
Oh no, I'm talking about the brother. The brother doesn't. Billy doesn't redeem himself.
Yeah, Billy doesn't redeem himself. Billy gets laid this season. Steve redeems himself.
Well, what I'm saying about Billy is like the only reason why he's in there is to set up season 3, and I guarantee you that Billy is going to be like the portal somehow to the underground, like to the Upside Down.
For
like,
sure. He's gonna look. That's what I'm saying. Like, but he's gonna join the group afterwards, and he's gonna have special dark powers. Maybe he becomes the Loki of this Avengers, Stranger Things and Avengers group that happens.
I don't think so. I think he's gonna be the main problem, and they're gonna have to kick the shit out of him. But yeah, there's a lot of problems with that Mad Max and her brother storyline that once again I think was kind of took away from some of the other things that had to be developed.
Okay, so let's talk about guest stars then in here because these are things that were brand new, but I think that their addition of it absolutely developed the series. Who do you want to do first? The corporate shill from Aliens, Paul Reiser, or Samwise Gamgee, Sean Astin, as fucking Bob Newby?
Let's talk a little Bob Newby, because Bob Newby is probably the best part of this show. I think, his, like, the fact that he's, like, he's portrayed as, like, such a douche, like... And
he's not
like,
a douche. He's a goody two shoes.
He's like, yeah, okay, like portrayed as like this goody two shoes, like bland, vanilla, like his own future like son-in-law, stepsons, hate him, make fun of him, but in reality, he's a genius, B, like a very, very like compassionate person.
Oh yeah.
And C, like. Meets his death. I like in a very, very like unfortunate way.
Yeah.
Like I think he was great and like it kind of almost was like a twist. Like because you think in the beginning that because he's so bland, he's just gonna be like
survive
like that guy. Yeah, he'll just survive and then maybe he'll die, but you won't really care. But he ends up like basically saving people over and over. Yeah. And he's like one of the main heroes of this series.
Like,
and,
that's the lake. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, fucking Sam.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. His name's Bob. That's like Bob Newby. Like that's like such like a great name.
Not Robert. That's Bob.
Yeah, he's Bob Newby. Like he could be like a sitcom character, right? Like and like he's just like like dad, like he makes dad jokes and shit like that. Like I hope it doesn't suck. Like I laughed hella hard. Like and that's the thing. Like he's like kind of the first like dad joke making like hero.
Yeah, because
right?
because Hopper is a terrible father.
Yeah. He's a terrible father.
Shut up! You get back in that room.
Yeah. Clean up. No TV for you. But yeah, I thought Bob was great.
Do you think that Bob Newby was the genius move of the season?
Yes and no. I think yes in the sense that he brought in like a whole other character element to kind of the adults, right? Because Winona Ryder is just way too. I don't even want to call her intense, but she's just like flipping out the whole time. And then Hopper is kind of like, you're trying to always just do the right thing, be reasonable, not be emotional. I think, Bob Newby really brought in like this element of like, kind of fun, lightness,
compassion, like making
compassion.
Like it brought the family back in.
Yeah.
So let me ask,
but let me get into the problem I have with it is his send off. Kind of his death and then his following, like the send off after that, like he just kind of dies, and that's like Joyce Byers has like a moment where she like looks at his picture and cries, I think, but other than that, that's not developed at all. And really, like even Jonathan, I don't think Jonathan Byers even really acknowledges like how like because Jonathan Byers was really the only one that was like why does mom like him? Like he sucks, Right. And like the fact that Bob dies, like basically sacrifices himself. He doesn't even sacrifice himself for Jonathan Byers.
No.
Right. Which they could have done.
Yeah.
They because he could have redeemed himself with the only person that he needed to redeem himself for. Mm-hmm. And that was my only problem with how Bob's character played out.
Okay. Well. Did you? I wanted to ask you. Did you watch the special afterwards beyond Stranger Things?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so here's an interesting tidbit. So we're going to talk about Paul Reiser next, and then we're gonna kind of wrap up the story section of it. But Sean Astin who plays Bob, actually tried out for Paul Reiser's character as the corporate shill in the laboratory.
Oh, okay.
But the Duffer Brothers was just and you hear this in the Beyond Stranger Things commentary. He's just like, dude, we have fucking Samwise Gamgee. We got to make him the hero. We got to make him the hero to Joyce. We got to make him the hero to the family. So I mean, this was an active decision because I think they knew what a gem they had in Sean Astin. I think that the decision making in the process, especially because he was trying out for a different part, I think the way that they kind of created this character and developed it in the way that he did was just absolutely brilliant. I think that Lord of the Rings was in the 2000s too, but for some reason or another, Sean Astin fits right into this this kind of 80s nostalgia era. He slips right in there, and I know he did a couple of Breakfast Club type movies when he was growing up too, but you don't really notice him in those things. But man, he's just he just is unremovable from this season for me, because I think he was the absolute highlight of this season. I couldn't get enough of him. The first time I saw him, they're gonna do him like this, they're gonna play the Radio Shack employee.
Yeah, he's a Radio Shack employee. I think that's hilarious too.
But then oh man, just the way that he did it at the end, it's you don't know basic computer engineering majors everywhere. Our fathers gave a cheer across the nation. when he was coding his way out of the fucking laboratory. I thought he was absolutely great. I thought that was just that touched on so many different levels of nerdism and the unorthodox hero in him. And it was unfortunate that he had to be written off the way that he was, but man, if he came back in season 3 as I don't know, a demi-zombie or something like that, I would not be opposed to it, because I can't get enough of Sean Astin in this series.
All right. By the way, I want to add in another nitpick I have about his death. Okay, so that lab was literally littered with dead bodies of freshly killed scientists.
Yes.
Their bodies piled up in the hallways, and yet all 5 demo dogs were just wanted to eat Bob. They
fresh
none of
meat.
these other yeah, but I'm saying there was a bunch of fresh meat laying around. The demo dogs weren't distracted by all the other dead dudes laying around. That part I was kind of he didn't have to, one of those he didn't have to meet his death sort of things. But that's my last nitpick about Bob Newby.
Okay, well, let's talk about the last thing about the story I want to talk about. Paul Reiser played the kind of the corporate shill at the laboratory in Hawkins, and also the journalist who is, what's his name? His name is Murray.
He looks like Paul Giamatti.
Huh?
He looks like Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, he kind of does, a younger Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, I thought it was.
His name is Brett Gelman, and he's just a comedian. But this is probably his biggest role thus far. I thought Paul Reiser. Did you watch Aliens when you were growing up, or the second one?
Yeah, I've seen them all. I don't remember specific details, but
so Paul Reiser in the second one is the corporate shill too for the Wayland Yutani Corporation or whatever, and he's just going through there, and he also, just like Sean Astin, was playing kind of a stereotyped character from the beginning, because anybody who remembers Paul Reiser from the Alien series knew that he was just an absolute fucking weasel in that show. And I think that I think that the biggest thing for me in this season leading into season 3 is I don't know what the motivations of the laboratory are.
It is kind of weird, right? Because from season 1 to season 2, it was completely different.
Right.
Season 1 was keep all the secrets. We got this fucking girl who's who's got telekinetic powers, and but now it's kind of we're here to kind of clean things up, and for the better of the world, we want to keep it a secret. The secret gets out, and Paul Reiser's kind of just
yeah,
he still has a job at the end of the series, even though all the news publications basically out his lab.
And I actually think that he's going to be the bridge into the third season because if you recall the last scene of the last episode in this, which comes out from like the very sweet dance scene where 11 and Mike kiss for the first time, and Nancy starts dancing with Dustin. Just like again, huge nostalgic notes on that point. Like real like. Heart jerker for me. It made me feel quite a bit. I really, really loved that scene. I think they captured the junior high innocence of it so well. But in any case, so after you kind of zoom out of the school during this dance, they flip it to the upside down where you see the shadow monster kind of just encroaching upon the school, looming in the background, and you're just like, oh my god, what are they going to do for season 3? Because you know that it's coming, and I think ultimately it's going to come from the lab again. And I actually, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they'll delve into some sort of side story where they tried to take children from the junior high school at like sometime in the past, because a part of the intricacy of Stranger Things is like they make you go through the mystery of it all. They like set up this thing, and then they can go back and they can like change history any way they want to write it. And I think at some point they're going to go through like school archives or something and find something about how like there are more children out there or something like that. And I think Paul Reiser, even though he had kind of a redeeming moment where he tried to save the children in this season, I think he's ultimately going to come back and still be a corporate shill in the third season. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
You make a good point that they don't really delve into the origins of the Upside Down, which this is a very, very like plot driven, like we have to save Will and we have to fight off the demons sort of storyline. But all in all, they really don't expand on what is the Upside Down, where does it come from. I mean, we understand the motivations are to take over the real world, I guess, but at some point they do have to explore it, and this kind of touches back to they could have had 11 explore the Upside Down. Instead, they had her come right back out and live in the real world. Right. They're going to have to do it, and I think like you said, I don't know if they're going to do it through it's not going to. I don't know if it's going to be explored through the means of finding these children that went missing many years back, or some other means. I think that if it was missing children, kind of in that small town, they would have already brought that up. They've already, because they've already lost 2 children, in Barbara and Will, right? And they like at some point someone would have been like, oh yeah, it was like that time like 10 years ago when these 2 kids like mysteriously disappeared. Yeah. So no, I don't think that they're gonna do something where it had abducted kids in the past from the junior high. Right. But I think it's possible that in the future they the junior high might be a hunting ground for the Upside Down to pull some of the children in. Right. So.
Okay, so the Upside Down next season, that's all great, but for me, at least, I want to talk about redemption for a little bit, because I think that for me, one of the standout stars of this season was Steve Harrington. His relationship with Dustin, how he developed as a character, how he got past just being a pretty face for Nancy to crush on and stuff like that, and how he matured himself. I loved him in this season. Wanted to know what your thoughts on him was.
Yeah, and his development actually kind of went hand in hand with the shortcomings of Jonathan and Nancy's. So I do want to touch on them first, because they accomplished nothing in this season, and this goes back to like, if this series was like episode week to week to week, you'd be like, why even have Jonathan Byers and Nancy in it? Because they literally do nothing. In the beginning, like the season starts off with Nancy and Steve still together. Nancy wants to tell Barbara's parents about what happened to Barbara. Steve says, no, we can't do that because the government will come and kill us. They split, and then Nancy and Jonathan Byers go on this adventure, which literally entails them, going into the lab, recording that scientist Paul Reiser saying some things, and then them going to the journalist's place,
Murray Bauman,
Murray's place, and then they give him this information that there is a lab, blah blah blah. That is all they accomplish in this series.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Right,
Jonathan slept on the pullout.
Oh, how was the pullout last night? That's a great line.
It was good. It was good.
That's a great line. Great line. But I think that I think that really opened the door for Steve to kind of just shoot off, kind of slingshot into his own character arc, right? Like, they really don't revisit the fact that they broke up after that, right? Like, him and Nancy have one conversation, but other than that, it's 0 to 60, Steve's helping these kids out, right. Bashing demo dogs and saving them from Max's older brother, It's great, and his interactions with Dustin are just fucking hilarious.
Yeah, the Farrah Fawcett hairspray.
Yeah, the hair advice, women advice.
Yeah.
It's so subtle, but it's great.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites, and I can definitely see him kind of becoming one of the main stars of the show over Jonathan and Nancy for sure. Because Jonathan and Nancy, their stories really aren't very compelling. Especially now the fact that they're together, right. It's what challenges could they really you've basically just been waiting for this to happen. Yeah, but I mean not like Jonathan Byers is picking up girls, and Nancy's already had her first go around with Steve, so is Dustin going to get into the mix?
No. It's not going to be Dustin. It's going to be Max's stepbrother, and Nancy's going to be
God, no. God, no.
She will just hook up with the baddest boy of every season.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a Emile Wang Ford bold move bet, but I think Steve Harrington dies before the series is done.
Note that, Connor. This is the Degree all-in moment.
Yeah, I need a sponsor. So, Ford bold move. Ford bold prediction is Steve Harrington dies. So
damn, that would be terrible.
Everyone write that down. Just as shocking as Glenn getting his head bashed in.
Dude, do you know what I think would be hilarious? If they got the actor that does John Ralphio to be the upside down version of Steve. Oh man, that would
go to the upside down world.
Rent to swag, where swag is our business.
God, no! I would stop watching if John Ralphio or his sister.
Okay, and on that, I'll say this. I actually do think that the relationship between Steve and Dustin is kind of the sweetest in the entire series, because it's hinted at, but it's not ever explicitly said. But Dustin is also the child of a single parent. He only lives with his mom too. He doesn't have any other male. He doesn't have a father figure. He doesn't have a male role model in his life. And Steve kind of transitions effortlessly into that slot for him.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's something to be said about this. When you're this is not a happy show when it comes down to it. There are funny moments, and there are moments that will make us smile, but the people that are supposed to be the main characters, Mike and Will, they at least Mike has a perfectly good family. Dad's kind of a tool, mom's kind of mom's kind of an airhead, but that's a nuclear family right there, And Lucas's family, he's got his sister, he's got his mom and dad are both there, and that's a nuclear family. And they have all really strong relationships, but the rest of them all come from broken families, and I think that's the fact that they can get along so well is a big thing. But the thing is, I also think that it sets up conflict for the next season as well. As they get into high school, and the insults may change, the mockery of their families may change as well. And I think family is a big issue too, because if you look at Maxine's family too, it's a stepfather stepmother sort of situation. That's her stepbrother. It's very, very tense. I think that there's a lot more going on in kind of like a social commentary perspective for the families, and it's so subtle. And I think that like the fact that they do this and they do it so effortlessly is so it's just a testament to how well the Duffer Brothers write and the type of thought that went into the series.
Yeah, like the thing how like Max's brother's probably a racist, right? But they never explicitly say it.
Exactly.
Right? Like they're like
don't hang out with that
guys
kid.
Yeah, like he doesn't drop the N-bomb or anything, but it just says you don't hang out with people like that. But you're right, it's not ham-fisted, it's not really like forced upon you, but you kind of infer it from there. So yeah. All
right, last question for you before I let you go. We touched on this earlier, but I think that the children in this series were absolutely phenomenal actors. Millie Bobby Brown as 11 is just a standout star for me. Even if you didn't love Maxine, Sadie Sink as Maxine, I thought did a phenomenal job. I thought Lucas, as a young black kid, did a really good job of defending his position and everything like that. I think Finn Wolfhard as Mike, everybody here did such a great job, and I think that it's been such a long time since we've seen child actors of this quality, or not necessarily of this quality, but the expectations of child actors set so high. Not since Macaulay Culkin back in the days, where you kind of expected a certain performance out of him. Even if you didn't love the performance, you expected that quality of performance out of him. I thought there was maybe like a 15 or 20 year gap between, those levels now. Is this a new threshold that we've set? Are expectations for child actors going to be consistently this high moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely now, like, the fact that all of these kids, are new, right? None of them were real actors before. They all had to audition for this. Is kind of a good sign that, filmmakers are going in a different direction of getting these children actors, and the fact that they're taking them more seriously, right? Like, I remember in our very first episode of this podcast, we talked Logan, and
Daphne Keane.
Granted, like you just kind of throw in with X23, like she was good, but she just she didn't have to do too much, she just had to be angry and confused, which is fine, but then they brought in all the other kids and you're like, dude, this is fucking cheesy. They kind of just capitalize on all the things that make kids cute. They just play the innocence card, they play the children playing with the adults card, and that was just stupid. Like, it's just been done so much before, but now you have these children actors that have to kind of react to some of these greater themes, right?
Right.
And yeah, I appreciate it. I think it's great that they're doing it. I want to contrast Stranger Things to It, because it came out. Just a couple months ago, and Finn 3 months ago, and Finn Wolfhard who plays Mike Wheeler in this, is actually like another character in It.
Right.
So it's kind of funny to see these stories side by side, and you have this one actor who's in both. And granted, Finn Wolfhard plays a completely different character, and he's fucking hilarious. If you get a chance to watch It, he's like a more like profane version of Dustin, basically. Like he jokes, he has one great line where all the kids are sitting around talking about and these are kids that are in their early teens, 12, 13, 14, they're sitting around talking about how they had a moment where the clown terrorized them, and then Finn Wolfhard's sitting there and he's like, "Wait, guys, does this sort of thing only happen to virgins?" Or some kind of line like that. It's fucking hilarious. But yeah, I think in recent years, they have upped the level of children actors, and it kind of opens up the kind of the range of what you can do in movies now, right? Like, can you imagine like something as creepy as like let's say Lord of the Flies, right? A movie like that, or remaking Battle Royale with talented American actors, and even
wait, didn't you watch
taking
Hunger
them
Games?
Out of fuck me, man. Yeah, just J-Law's intense face the whole time. My God. Don't get me started.
I need more fiber.
Yeah, I think it's good that you like people are beginning to find ways to expand this talent pool of children, and then you're able to make some really great films that can visit some really creepy themes. I think a quality Lord of the Flies would be a very good movie.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
You can try and make some more adult, adult themed, not necessarily adult themed, but with like mature themed issues. Like Island of the Blue Dolphins has never been done justice. That would be.
Was that the Native American one?
The American one, the Scott Odell novel has never been done justice. Actually, I think back to like the kids in The Last Samurai too. Those kids did a phenomenal job there as well. And I always just wish that you could get some of these together and kind of recreate some of the children's stories. Like Where the Red Fern Grows would be an incredible, movie to make at this time. And I don't know if you've seen this, but have you seen the latest Wrinkle in Time trailer?
Nope.
I just feel as though that like the quality for that again has been pulled back. Like they're just playing it safe, and I think it's being made by Disney. Right now, and I just don't understand with the level of quality actors that you have right now. I don't know why you're trying to play this kind of to the lowest common denominator. It might just be a monetary thing, but I think that you could make some really, really great art with the child actors that we have available to us today. And I think it's a small gap because these comes in like these types of actors, this level of talent and this concentration comes in waves, and it's not going to be long before we have to wait again to have the opportunity to make these films again. All right, man. I think that does it for our Stranger Things 2 podcast. Thank you for joining me this afternoon to talk about this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting me, Jeffrey. You were great.
Yeah, so to all the EWangBangers out there, it's been a pleasure hosting this podcast. And for the EWangBang podcast, I'm Jeffrey Liu.
I'm Emile Wang.
Keep on banging.
Keep on banging.